What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video series here today. I've got something especially different for you, something that an archetype I don't normally play all that often, and I'll explain why. So in the past GP Oklahoma City, there was a ton of mana. Big mana decks, meaning decks like Tron, Valakut. I would say those are the two biggest offenders of the title Big Mana. And we saw quite a few in the top 8, but not just the top 8, but in the tournament in general as well. And that very quickly translated over to Magic Online as well. So I jammed a few leagues with some archetypes that I love, like Grixis Delver. I was planning to do a video series with that. I want to do maybe another blue-white control or some type of Jeskai control. The issue was that the meta is just so oversaturated with these decks right now that it was really hard to metagame accurately. So you can pack your sideboard with as much hate as you want for those decks, but at the end of the day, if you're playing even a mid-range or a control deck, you're going to have a really hard time beating decks like Valakut and Tron. Not to say that it's impossible, but you definitely decrease your odds of winning if that's the deck you choose to play in a meta so filled with decks like those. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Tron and Valakut are unbeatable for control, but it's definitely one of the harder matchups in the metagame. So, we use that as an excuse to play an archetype that kind of fell off the scene a long time ago, but it got a little bit of a resurgence, and this is blue-green Infect. What Infect does is basically, it essentially takes your opponent's life total from 20 as their starting life total, and basically starts it at 10. This is because of the poison, or the Infect mechanic, which this creature deals damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters, and to players in the form of poison counters. Now, if a player has 10 or more poison counters, they lose the game. So essentially, instead of your opponent starting with 20 life, they start with 10. And what that allows you to do is play creatures like Glistener Elf, which is a 1/1 with Infect. You play creatures like Blighted Agent, which is a 1/1 Infect that can't be blocked, and Blighted Mamba, also 1/1 Infect, but has 1 and a green for Regenerate. As well as Inkmoth Nexus, which is a land that can produce mana, but can also become a 1/1 flying creature with Infect. So what that allows you to do is you play all these creatures that are small, cheap, efficient, and you pack around them all these very cheap pump spells, not removal spells. It's mutagenic growth, so you can essentially get a free +2/+2 if you pay 2 life. Now, your life really doesn't matter all that much because you're a really aggressive deck. You have Blossoming Defense to protect your creature from removal spells, also give +2/+2. You have Groundswell is target creature gets +2/+2, but if you had a land enter the battlefield this turn, it gets +4/+4. So it's really very aggressive in the sense that you play a 1-mana creature and you could even on turn 2 get a kill, right? So it can have very explosive draws like this, which punish decks like Tron or Valakut, which want to set up for turn 4. Of course, we have Noble Hierarch to get some efficient mana acceleration, as well as the Exalted is absolutely not irrelevant in this deck. You have Vines of Vastwood that is also protection spell, but also one of your most powerful pump spells. Gives you +4/+4 and protect your creature. Can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control this turn. Basically gives it hexproof. And then you have Might of Volcrosa, which is also one of your most powerful pump spells, which gives you +4/+4 if you cast it during your main phase, which oftentimes you can pull off. You have 1 of Spell Pierce here because sometimes interacting with your opponent is important. You have Apostle's Blessing, which is essentially a free protection spell. Not quite in terms of mana, but you can use any type of mana to pay it. So it's 1 colorless and pay 2 life. It gains protection. So it's not just a protection spell from removal spells, but it can also allow you to punch through damage. Say your opponent has a field full of Lingering Souls, you say, give my Glistener Elf protection from white, and then you bash in, right? So it's not just a protection spell for removal spells, but also as a way for you to kind of alpha strike in a way. And then, of course, one of the most powerful pump spells in the game we have here become immense. So it's Delve. Each card you exile from your graveyard while casting spell pays for 1. So essentially, you fill up your graveyard on maybe the first turn or the second turn, and turn 3, you go for maybe the Alpha Strike with Become Immense. Target creature gets +6/+6 until end of turn. So that's essentially the deck. It can attack from a whole bunch of different angles. We have a few goodies in the sideboard here. A lot of stuff just interacts with instants or non-creature spells. Twisted Image really helps against opposing Birds of Paradise decks or Noble Hierarch decks or Spellskite, if you expect that. Echoing Truth just bounces really annoying permanents, especially Chalice of the Void. If you are playing against Eldrazi Tron or something like that, they may have set up a Chalice on 0 and a Chalice on 1. Well, Echoing Truth allows you to bounce both of those and maybe go for the Alpha the following turn. Nature's Claim, again, removal for enchantments or artifacts. Again, your opponent gaining 4 life is really not an issue at all. Shaper's Sanctuary is actually quite a cool one. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. Now, this happens when they target, not necessarily when the spell resolves, right? So you can still protect the creature, and essentially you still draw a card, right? So it's not just like, okay, you're trading a card for their removal spell. You could actually protect your creature, and then still draw a card. So you kind of just keep the gas going, keep the engine going. Dissenter Deliverance, another way to destroy artifacts, but it also cycles if it's not relevant in that game, which is really nice. Nissa Voice Zendikar for the more grindy matchup. Sometimes your opponent boards in all this creature removal and suddenly you slam a Nissa and you start ticking up and then you draw a bunch of cards or you put a bunch of +1/+1 counters on your board. And the game can end pretty quickly after that. And then you have Viridian Corruptor. Again, another way to destroy artifacts is, again, Spellskite, Chalice of the Void are 2 of the most difficult artifacts for this deck to deal with. So that's why we have a card like Viridian Corruptor, who is also an Infect creature. So you come in, blow up an artifact, and then start dealing Infect. So that is Infect for you in a nutshell. This is one of the few decks that I have on paper. I haven't played it in a while, but I do have it, and I'd like to get better at it because I think the meta might shift in a way that would be well positioned for it. So, of course, I have like all the Jeskai variants on paper as well, but we're going to take a break from Control, and we're going to go towards this more kind of combo aggro deck and see how it performs. I also want to say we're really close to 800 subscribers, so I want to thank every single one of you that is watching this and supporting every single video. You really mean everything to me, and I really do appreciate all of your support throughout all of this. We're not going to take this through a comp league, so again, remember, I'm still in finals week right now, so I'm kind of finding the time to record in between all of the crazy stuff going on in my life. So it's just going to be maybe three or four matches in some competitive single queue lobbies. So I suspect we'll run into some good decks there. But of course, after finals are over, we'll go back to the regular, modern competitive league, 5 matches with a deck and some closing comments. So we'll go back to going for the trophies as soon as I have time to commit to a league like that. Anyways, thanks so much for watching this deck tech, and stay tuned for the first match coming up here with Blue-Green Infect. I'll see you guys soon. Alright, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the first match here with Blue-Green Infect. Let's take a look at our opener here. So we do have an Infect creature, but the issue is we don't have a second land, so I think we have to mulligan this. Like, yeah, if we hit another land, that'd be great, but I think here we'll just have to mulligan. And here we have both the Noble Hierarch and an Inkmoth Nexus. I think that's going to be a keep for me. Might have Old Krosa. It's very interesting. We could keep it set up for like a turn 3 kill, potentially. Yeah, I don't see why not. Here, we don't mind pump spells, especially because we have something that just can't be taken away. Flooded Strand is obviously never good to see for a deck like ours, right? So, in terms of what land we want to play, we could play the Pendelhaven. No protection spells is a little rough. We could also just fetch up Breeding Pool, play the Noble Hierarch, but Windsweep Heath could count for 2 land drops for Groundswell if we can't unload all of our spells in one turn. So I'm going to go ahead and lead on Pendelhaven here. And let's hope we're not against Jeskai control, because if we are, we're gonna cry. What do you got for me, opponent? It's Hallowed Fountain. Okay, that is not. It's not a Steam Vents, at least. So we might be up against blue-white control here. So we really want to find a protection spell. So let's go ahead and set up the Inkmoth Nexus here. So blue-white control obviously has a lot of Field of Runes, Ghost Quarters, Detention Spheres, counter spells, all that good stuff. I think first thing we want to do here is bash in for 1 damage here with Noble Hierarch. So being on the play is a lot better in the control matchup. All right, let's see if we get in for 1 damage here with Noble Hierarch. Essentially because all we're doing this turn is playing Inkmoth Nexus, which is why I didn't want to really do anything else. It would be really nice if we could deploy an Infect creature here. That way, if they want to spend their whole next turn playing like, Watery Grave, that means they have even more spot removal than maybe we expect in the past. So interesting. If they like go for Gideon here, I will probably kill it with Noble Hierarch. Frame Sanity. What in the world? Okay. I think that's a good thing for us, right? And do we have a kill here? I think we have a kill. Not quite. Are we 1 short? No. So we go Groundswell plus Infect damage. Yeah. Sorry, plus Exalted damage. I believe that is a kill. So hope we don't misclick here. We'll get 1 from the Exalted trigger. That is a turn 3 kill, my friends. All right. So, Esper Mill. That is super interesting and a great way to throw some money away in a lobby like this. But before I bet you we're gonna lose because I just said that. So let's think about what we want to bring in here. Spell Pierce, definitely up for consideration. We could go deep and go Nature's Claim. There's a lot of things we could do here. It's pretty tricky when it comes to sideboarding with Infect because you don't really want to side in too much because you want to keep the core game plan. So usually I trim a little around the edges. Like we probably don't need 4 Blossoming Defense against Mill. They might have some like Fatal Pushes or Path to Exiles, but I guess Spell Pierce cross performs there. Dispel, probably not necessary. They do a lot of the things in the main phase. I don't think we can expect Chalice of the Void from our opponent's deck here. And I don't think Spellskite something they play, although again, I don't have the knowledge there to really make an educated decision about Twisted Image. We could bring in Nature's Claim because that, again, still hits Spellskite potentially. Dissenter Deliverance just hits artifacts. Could be useful. Also Cycles. I don't think this is a matchup where we want Shaper Sanctuary. Echoing Truth could be interesting, though. So I think we definitely want this other Spell Pierce. Question, do we want Apostle's Blessing? Probably not. I like the Nature's Claim here. Yeah, I think I'm going to keep it that way. I don't quite know how our opponent sets up their deck, but whatever we see, we can sideboard against next if we go to a game 3. But overall, I think keeping the core game plan is the way to go for this matchup here. Maybe we could even side out like Dryad Arbors in a matchup like this. Like, we don't expect the Liliana of the Veils. Wow, this hand is very threat loaded. No, not much pump, but we do have protection. I think I'm absolutely gonna keep this, as we can even beat like a Thoughtseize effect. Another, okay. Let's just go ahead and get Noble Hierarch down. Let's see what our opponent is gonna do here. Shelldock Isle. Okay. So I think I'm just gonna deploy Blighted Agent and keep up Might have Volcrosa. That's a good start. I think I'm just gonna keep up Blossoming Defense. I'm gonna fetch now. They could have something like Mind Break, or no, what's that? What's that one where Archive Trap? And like Surgical Extraction, but I'm not too worried about that. Again, I could have deployed another Noble Hierarch here. I think it's pretty likely our opponent has something like a Path to Exile here. All right, no Path to Exile. That's good for us. Ghost Quarter. Okay. No black mana currently. Nature's Claim. Okay, so kind of getting the pain of over sideboarding a little bit here. Let's go ahead and deploy another Noble Hierarch. And we'll see what our opponent does here. If they have like a mana leak or something like that. I'm actually really not sure the composition of the deck. So here we have a choice. We could just Might of Old Kroza. That would mean our Blade Agent goes up to a 5/5. The Exalted would make it +2/+2, which would make it a 7/7. And Blossoming Defense protect it, but it would only bring it to a 9/9. So it's not quite a kill or anything like that. So I think I'll hold off one turn before unloading some of these spells. I will protect Blighted Agent in the case of some sort of removal spell here. If they go like Path to Exile plus Dispel or something like that, that's going to feel a little bad, but I'm not going to play around that. Here, I'll just get in for 3 Infect, take my time here. I don't have to get a turn 3 kill, and next turn I can set up for the turn 4 kill. So ideally, if my opponent plays well here, they're going to Path to Exile at the end of Blessed Alliance. That's pretty good. I did not play around Blessed Alliance. So we can still set up Blighted Mamba here and have Blossoming Defense to protect it. See what our opponent has for us. They're going to go ahead and cycle their Visions of Beyond. They basically just instant speed draw a card. No selection or anything like that. So it's just blind draw. Although, of course, it becomes basically an ancestral recall if a graveyard has 20 or more cards in it. So Blessed Alliance is pretty good against us. Does our opponent have like Supreme Verdict here? That would be backbreaking because we can't regenerate. Okay, no Supreme Verdict. It seems. Blue, black, Glimpse the Unthinkable. Sure. What did they mill for us? They milled a couple Spell Pierces, some Blighted Agents, Become Immense. Does fuel our Become Immense, so if we draw Become Immense in the future, that does get pretty nice for us. Interesting to see what our opponent. So they milled a Forest. We still have a third Forest in our deck. So we have one in play, one in our graveyard. They might be sitting on something like a Surgical Extraction, and they're wondering, okay, do I go for it now? Do I go for it on their draw step? If that was my opponent, I don't know what I would do. I don't even think there's any good targets in the graveyard here. Maybe like take Blighted Agent, thin our threats out. Take Glistener Elf, thin our threats out. We could play around Blessed Alliance next turn. Obviously, it depends on our draw. It would be nice to hit maybe the third Spell Pierce or one of the Dispels. Not sure I brought the Dispel in, though, now that I think about it. Maybe I should have brought the Dispel in. We'll see what our opponent does here. Ideally, we would have wanted to hit in last turn, but I guess it's nice that we didn't go for the Might of Old Krosa play, because then we would have really gotten blown out by Blessed Alliance. Alternatively, next turn we can just go Might of Old Krosa and attack with a Hierarch and a Blighted Mamba to play around it. But again, it really depends on what we draw. It would be interesting to know how much they sided in out of a mill deck into like an Esper control deck. Glistener Elf, interesting. So the fact that we drew another threat means I'm kind of just okay bashing in here with Blighted Mamba. If they have another Blessed Alliance, it's going to hit us eventually. The question is, what do we got here? Waiting to pay costs? My opponent should probably do this in the beginning of combat. Become Immense. Sure. If they're hitting Become Immense, then, well, we could still play around. Interesting they did that at the main phase. So they know our hand now. Makes me kind of want to deploy this Might of Old Krosa now. That way we get in for 5-7 next turn, or this turn, and then next turn we have Blossoming Defense plus attack. I guess we could always. I'm just gonna go for it. They could have another Blessed Alliance. You notice me, I'm not popping my Windswept Teeth here because there's no reason. We have Groundswells in our deck. It would be always nice to keep those online as potential draws in the future. They have something like a Snapcaster Matri to come in and block. They have another Blessed Alliance. God dang it. Yeah, that feels bad. It's almost like we knew about it, but we decided not to play around it, so That's what we get. We have another threat here, which is nice, but we're under the gun here. Our opponent has probably their best spell against us, and we don't have much to fight back against them. So it's interesting to see how much they really did deviate. So that's just a 1-mana cantrip, right? Okay. So they did deviate quite deeply from their mill plan. Fraying Sanity, sure. We do have the Nature's Claim for that. Right, okay. Another land, okay. I guess here we just beat in with Glistener Elf here. Get 3 points of Infect in. Land, obviously not an ideal draw. But we do have our opponent on a 4-turn clock, I guess. I guess it's 3-turn with this Blossoming Defense. We are going to keep it, the Windswept Heath in our hand here. Sure. So that's, again, just a 1-mana draw card. Some more mill for me. Glimpse the Unthinkable, sure. See what they hit here. And land, okay. So Shelldock is close to being online. Did they hit? They did hit the second breeding pool. Did they hit the second forest? They did not. Dryad Arbor is not a great draw here. So our opponent is dead next turn if they don't have anything. Although that is, we would have to get quite lucky there. Let's go ahead and play this Dryad Arbor. Sure, they're going to probably thin their deck a little bit. Godless Shrine it is. Come on, fade 1 draw. Okay. Opponent's not doing anything. Jeez, all these lands. Come on, deck. We could go for it here. There's a time and place to go for it. I think this is the time and place to go for it. No blocks. Blossoming Defense. The longer this game goes, the worse position we are in. Oh my god. Of course they drew Path to Exile. That is punishment. That is ultimate punishment. Alright, we have no blue mana. Oh, well, we have Noble Hierarchs to produce blue mana. We kind of need threats here, though. Kind of really need threats here. Jeez. Alright, lands it is. I guess we're on the Dryad Arbor beatdown plan. Yeah, that might have been just really greedy. Maybe we could have waited 1 more turn. They would have had to find a removal spell in 2 turns anyways. Now they just drew 3 cards. Yeah, this is rough. Drawing 3 lands obviously doesn't help either. Yep. Okay. All right. If we have an Infect creature on top right now, we can still get there. Inkmoth Nexus is pretty good once they've blown their Inkmoth Nexus is great because they use their Ghost Quarter already. I'm still going to get in there with 3 damage with Dryad Arbor here. Alright. Inkmoth Nexus is in play. They do have Shelldock Isle to activate now, which is quite scary. I wonder what they have. Hopefully it's not something too good. Like, oh, is that you may play it? Huh. Could that mean it's another Blessed Alliance? Or maybe it's a Path to Exile? And they want to use it on my Inkmoth Nexus? Okay. Thinning their deck out. So, interesting, they don't keep it for like potential Hedron Crab. I guess the question is, if we draw the win next turn, do we go for it? I think that's quite an important question to ask ourselves. Opponent is thinking quite deeply here about their potential one mana play here. Of course, we could have decided to not attack with Dryad Arbor there, and that would mean we mill 1 less with Mesmeric Orb. I don't think it's going to make the difference. It might, but it's just really hard to do the math on that kind of stuff because we don't know how much lands are left in our deck. For example, if they play like that 3 mana mill until you mill 4 lands. So if they go like Glimpse here into Fraying Sanity, obviously we're dead. But that wouldn't have, that Mesmeric Orb would not have changed the numbers there. Let's go ahead and just always yield to this trigger here. We don't have unlimited time here, so hopefully our opponent is sitting on 2 lands just like we're sitting on 3 lands. Field of Runes. So it's good to know that they milled that and that they have it in their deck. Again, that's a really good way to fight Inkmoth Nexus. I would be in a much better position, obviously, here. Well, so they have Supreme Verdict as well. Also really good to know. Hedron Crab. Yep, this is standard Esper Mill deck, huh? Can they play this at instant speed if it's a sorcery? Yes. So they might have like Supreme Verdict under there, which would be a reason. Oh my god, Field of Ruin. That's so good here. Yep. Obviously, when Infect goes to turn 10 against a control deck, we're not in the greatest position. So I imagine, okay, so they go Shelldock right now. Is it Supreme Verdict? I have a feeling it is. Or else why wouldn't they have played it last turn? I guess. Opponent is taking quite a while here. Might be just a bit of lag on their side. I'm not quite sure. They could also have very difficult decisions at this point in the game. I don't think so, but what do you have for me, opponent? What do you have? So I think I definitely bring in the Dispels. Keeping the blossoming defenses as well. I think we could play our sideboard game a little bit better for next match, because I suspect we'll be going to game 3 here. Hard to imagine that we're not. I mean, obviously we're sitting with 3 cards in our hand. Our opponent could be thinking quite a bit here on what we might have. Opponent's making us sweat this out quite a bit here. I may just pause this and edit this out if it takes a bit longer. Alright, guys, looks like our opponent made a decision finally to not cast again with Shelldock Isle. I'm very confused here. Very confused. Our opponent's going to go for the Field of Ruin on our turn. Sure. We are forced to search our library here. It's not a May ability, but let's take a look at what we have left. We have a couple Inkmoth left, a Blighted Ancient, Blighted Mamba, a Glistener Elf, and some pump spells. So we could still get there, you know, in the regular damage beatdown plan. I wonder if Nissa is something we should consider for a matchup like this. Although I don't think so. I think a matchup like this, even though they do play a bit of the control role, we do want to end the game. Yeah, Archive Trap. Let's see, do we still have any Infectors left? Jeez. Glistener Elf, Blighted Agent, Blighted Mamba. I don't think we have much left in our deck. We're at 5 cards left in our deck here. To play any of our spells, it costs mana. Vines of Vastwood. That does not cost mana, right? I think here I just attack for 3. I could get in for 5. That doesn't change the clock. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and attack for 3 and hope that there's a pump spell on the top of my deck. Vines of Vastwood would not have done it either, but Vines of Vastwood will do it next turn. I think we do have a bit of stuff left in our deck that we can hit here. We have maybe one more Groundswell. Hopefully if our opponent has duds, we can still get there on the damage plan. Opponent playing a land. That is always a good sign for us. Alright, mill 1. Inkmoth Nexus, and that's a Groundswell. So I think I'm going to go for that here. And that should be exactly 7 with the Noble Hierarch Exalted triggers. Obviously, we don't know what our opponent has under the Shelldock Isle. That could easily change things here, but We have lethal. We have to go for it. Thanks. So technically we're not dead yet. We could still hit a groundswell. Maybe. I think we actually milled all of our groundswells. Alright. Fraying Sanity, sure. It doesn't kill us yet. Vines of Vastwood would still be a kill. Mutagenic growths, that's 4. 6 damage, we're 1 off. That's crazy. Right? We attack for 2, 4, 6. Man. Deck, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this? Alright. New game plan here. Keep the defenses in. Keep the Dispel in. I don't like the Shaper Sanctuary, even though it does get quite grindy. These two, maybe? Maybe we want to cut the mutagenics in a matchup like this. We don't need to be quite as explosive if we have protection. Kind of like that idea. Viridian Corruptor is pretty narrow. Although it does hit, it's another infect creature and it hits those orbs, so maybe we want to do that. And Nissa is also quite a cool play that we could have here. So maybe we want to cut some of our more explosive, maybe cut a Nature's Claim. I don't see how that's great here necessarily. Viridian Corruptor should be good enough. And maybe we can cut one of the more explosive spells like Might of Old Kroza, which forces us to play on our main phase. I think that should be good. Almost got there through regular damage. That was really intense. But I think triple Spell Pierce, double Dispel should go a long way this game. No Infect creatures, so we cannot keep this hand, even with 2 Spell Pierces. Here we have an Inkmoth Nexus, and even though we know our opponent plays a ton of Ghost Quarters and the like, and the Field of Ruins, I think we still have to keep this. So our opponent doesn't have that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'll keep another Inkmoth Nexus. Knowing our opponent's deck, I will absolutely keep another Inkmoth Nexus. Okay. I think we're off to a good start here. The question is, do we play the second Inkmoth Nexus, or do we keep up Wooded Foothills for Dispel? I think we just play the second Inkmoth here. I'm not going to attack into potential Path to Exile here, so I'll wait 1 turn before we bash in. Because again, we want to protect our threats as best as we can. I guess I could have played Wooded Foothills here to keep up Dispel. Alternatively, I could also keep it up for Ghost Quarter, because what I can do is animate the Inkmoth Nexus and then use that green mana. Animate Inkmoth Nexus using its own mana. Alright, no white mana. That's a pretty good sign for us. Sure, Glimpse the Unthinkable it is. Hit some pretty good stuff, but another Blossoming Defense, not bad at all. Here, I'm quite okay playing the Pendelhaven. Let's animate. Let's get in there for 2 Infect. And now it's an old-fashioned race here. Ghost Quarter is good. It hits one of our Inkmoth Nexus, but not both, obviously. And we do have Blossoming Defense as well to protect it. We can have Blossoming Defense plus Dispel. We will search our library. Interesting. Okay, okay, wow. Do we have the kill here? I think ooh, are we one off? Yes. No, we have Defense plus Dispel. We could go for it next turn. And then this turn we can keep up Dispel plus Blossoming Defense. Yeah, I like keeping up Blossoming Defense here and Dispel. And then next turn we can go for the kill. We don't have to go for it this turn. Okay, I mean, so far we're looking like we're playing all right here. Just play it safely. Next turn we can untap with Defense, Become Immense, and Dispel up, which could be the nail in the coffin for our opponent here. Ghost Quarter here would be an issue because we can't animate and Blossoming Defense. So like Field of Ruin would be quite troublesome for us. Our opponent... Interesting. Here, yeah, let's just go ahead and get in there. See if our opponent has anything here, any effects. No effects, so let's take out the stuff that we don't want them to... Surgical Extraction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should be 7 Infect coming through here. We can beat a Blessed Alliance and we can beat a Path to Exile. Sure, our opponent can go ahead and draw a card here. I'm going to go ahead and fetch up a Breeding Pool here. Cast a Blossoming Defense, targeting my Inkmoth Nexus, and we have Dispel to cover our bases here. Archive Trap. Ooh, that's tricky. Because then if they hit our... Okay. We don't have to think about it, because if they hit our Breeding Pool, then we can't actually Dispel, and then if we crack our Fetch now, then they might be able to get like a Fatal Push in or something. But ultimately, it didn't matter, so yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. That was the first match with Blue-Green Infect against Esper Mill, and looks like we got there. So I'll see you guys for the next round.